Now, Attorney Golan, on Immigration Update on the Air, people have been asking, what is the temporary protected status all about? What is that? Is that for all countries? Is that for El Salvador, extended temporary protected status? And what does it mean?
Temporary protected status, or what we refer to usually as TPS. TPS is a declaration by the U.S. government that there is an emergency situation in a certain country.
Yes.
And people from that country are permitted to stay in the U.S. until the end of the emergency. Normally, the end of the emergency is already defined in the declaration. They will declare it for 1 year. The government will say we grant TPS for 1 year for people from a certain country. Mm-hmm. If they have been here before the beginning of this. Okay?
Yes.
Now, there are certain countries where this TPS situation has been declared 20 years ago or more, or 30 years ago, and has been extended continuously, but only for people who came here before a certain date.
I see.
And who applied for TPS before a certain date, and their TPS status has been extended again and again and again for many, many years. For example, today there is a TPS declaration for citizens of Syria.
Yes.
Because the conditions in Syria are very bad, and people from Syria came to the U.S. before a certain date, and they are able to get TPS, which is always for 1 year, and extended again and again, already like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Okay. But this is not automatically for anybody who claims that he cannot go home.
I see. Mm-hmm. So for people, another question here, someone who came to the United States but had an emergency situation, so is under critical care in a hospital. So that's a valid reason for not being able to return, correct, Attorney Golan?
No, it doesn't matter his reason. It matters if the U.S. government declared a state of emergency for that country.
Oh, I see. No, I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
For example,
yes.
If there was a typhoon in the Philippines, which hit a certain island a few years ago, the government did not declare TPS.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. government did not declare a TPS status for the Philippines, and even though a certain island was devastated, people from that island or from anywhere else in the Philippines were not granted TPS.
So now I'm speaking about another question by this individual who traveled to the United States, but the mother is now in critical condition in a hospital. So daughter and mother decide not to go home. Of course, she is under medical care. Will that be a reasonable evidence that they cannot go home even though their visas have expired? And do they have to extend their visas?
If they are able to apply for an extension before the visa expires, then they may get an extension. But if the visa expired before the mother became sick, and now they want an extension because of this sickness of the mother, they will not get an extension.
Wow. Of course, some people...
Because they already overstayed. They already violated the visa.
I see.
So you can apply for an extension only if you are still in status.
So generally, and generally, did you say that it's really not so easy to apply for an extension of visa for anyone?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Did you say in the past also, our programs, did you say that generally a visa is given for 6 months and applying for renewal is not that easy?
It's not that easy because you have to have a good reason to explain why you need to be here as a tourist, as a visitor for more than 6 months.
Right.
What kind of a visitor?
That's right. It's a permanent visitor. Staying for visiting and staying with the family. That's true. It becomes a different situation. Now, here's a question by someone who is on a student visa and would like to know if he can travel for a visit back to the home country on a student visa.
If the student visa was granted here, if this person came here on a visitor's visa and made a change of status here to a student visa, if he or she leaves the United States, they need to go to the American consul and get a new visa, a new student visa.
I see.
However, if they came here with a student visa, then they can travel anytime they want, as many times as they want, as long as the student visa in the passport is valid.
Mm-hmm. Another question, Attorney Golan, someone asking from the Philippines about the visa for people with extraordinary abilities or excellence. If they're well known as a writer, maybe a painter, does that still exist?
Yes, it does. It is called E1. It's employment-based one.
Mm-hmm.
And such a person may self-petition, does not need a sponsor or an employer. Such a person may self-petition, file an I-140 petition for himself or herself, and may get an immigrant visa based on this petition, on a self-petition.
I see. So if they're, let's say, in the Philippines or somewhere else in another part of the world, they can do this on their own, just gather all the evidence of all their achievements, their certificates, their awards, and references, and they just file and go to the U.S. Embassy for this? Or do they need the immigration?
No.
Mm-hmm.
They may be in the Philippines, but they cannot file at the embassy.
Oh, I see.
The petition must be filed with the immigration service in the United States.
I see.
And if the immigration service approves the petition, the approval will go to the American embassy in Manila to issue an immigrant visa.
Mm.
Again, this is not an easy petition, and it is advisable to have a lawyer involved in this.
Right. Now, do you service people or clients at immigration even wherever they are? Like you do this by communicating through email and by Skype, or just calling you or video conferences?
We deal with clients anywhere in the world.
Ah.
And today it's pretty easy to communicate with emails and Skype and this kinds of methods. The only requirement is to make a payment arrangement with a client who is somewhere else.
That's right. Very important. Yes, they cannot just present a copy of the check, right? Or they send it through Skype, a check number. Yeah. The wonder of technology. That's right. So that's Attorney Golan. That's 213-383-3222.